Time now is coming up to 20 minutes away from 8. It's a catch-up with Vincent Heeringa, the voice of the creative economy at Idealogue magazine, idealogue.co.nz. Good morning, Vincent.
Good morning, Wammo.
Today, talking rugby. Thoughts? No, just kidding.
Today, talk rugby?
No.
I love rugby.
No, I don't want to talk rugby. Let's talk angel investing and investing in Kiwi tech firms and startups.
Cool Kiwi companies.
Yeah.
Do you know what angel investing is? Do I need to explain?
Well, it's just someone deciding to invest in a business, yeah?
Yeah, it is. It's a particular type of investment. It's that right at the beginning stage of a business where nobody is prepared to lend to you, neither your bank nor the share market nor kind of institutional investors. It's an angel investor is the next person you go to after you've borrowed money off your uncle and your mum and your brother or your dad to get you going.
Right.
And you've kind of got a business going. You might have a product. You might even have some sales. You've certainly got some costs.
At this point, it sounds like a loan shark, but yes, carry on.
Well, they're kind of like loan sharks, except that it's not a loan. It's an investment.
Yeah.
So they take risk. And they inject some money into your business. It's typically somewhere under $1 million, and they will give you some money to get you to that next stage where you can perhaps get a more professional staff or get some product development or generate some marketing collateral. That's a really important part of the whole business ecosystem, because if people aren't giving young entrepreneurs a helping hand with money and mentoring and advice and networks, we just aren't going to get those growing companies in New Zealand. But the good news, Wammo, is that this sector of the economy is growing quite fast.
Oh, I see. Okay, so more investment going on, but what type of investment?
Well, it's typically in the tech sector, or at least, if it's not in the tech sector, it's in that kind of high-margin, high-intellectual property kind of business. So we're not talking about investing in farms or in property. It's in people making, niche alcohols or a new type of shoe or a device that might fit on top of a camera.
Cool.
So they're typically in that kind of high-end manufacturing area.
And are these New Zealand angel investors?
Yes, they are. And in the past there hasn't really been, it's really kind of emerged in the last 5 years, there hasn't been an organised system for bringing investors, angel investors, and entrepreneurs together. But now there's an angel association which kind of facilitates things. There's a government fund where you can match, so if you can generate some angel investment, then the government might tip in a similar amount. And the end result, Wammo, is that in the last 3 years it's grown, it's just about doubled from 25 million invested to 45 million in the last 3 years. And there's basically 2 of these deals being done every week across the country.
Wow, okay, that's cool. Because one of the criticisms in the past, particularly from about government investment, is that the government will only be prepared to back winners, and often these are, the usual, the Fisher and Paykel's or whatever. The big companies have been around for ages and they'll only back the winners, rather than spreading the money thin and spending less on more. Yes.
Well, that's kind of the job of these angels to use their investment nous to pick winners. When the government picks winners, they often will get it wrong. So the government needs to be a little bit more cautious with its money, particularly around R&D spend. And there's in the news today quite a notorious example of that, of a company called Right Hemisphere, which was given a dollop of cash. It was given an interest-free $11 million loan in 2007.
Yeah.
And now it's a cool company. Right Hemisphere do 3D a 3D technology for a kind of rendering. So they do things like they will, instead of writing a manual for how to pull apart a Rolls-Royce aircraft engine, they will do a 3D rendering and pull it apart on screen.
Cool.
It's an awesome technology. It's used by Weta in the film industry, and it's used by engineering organisations. But it was sold yesterday to German company called SAP, which is a software company. It was sold in its entirety for an undisclosed sum.
SAP, they make customer management systems.
I know. They make this thing called ERP. Let's not even go there. It's so incredibly dull.
Yawn-worthy, yeah.
Yeah. They're really sad. I mean, it's at one level it's exciting because you have here is a New Zealand company that has grown up in the last 10 years to reach about $10 million revenues and awesome world-class technology. Got some help along the way from the government to retain about 40 R&D staff here in New Zealand. This is a company that could, and it's very easy to criticise because, here I am actually not having done it myself, but here is a company that could have been in New Zealand and stayed and grown, has been sold in its entirety to a German company. And they say that they will keep their staff here and the R&D will retain in New Zealand. It's very hard to see a long-term future when the ownership is in the Northern Hemisphere to have an outpost here of R&D.
And what was the benefit to the New Zealand taxpayer for that investment, though?
Not much. Some employment.
So should investment from the government come with some kind of terms and conditions?
Well, I think it should, yes. I think it should. I think there is that companies, when they have been given grants or loans like this, they are beholden to retain some sort of New Zealand ownership. And we're talking here, maybe it's a minority state because you don't want to stop these companies from growing. But, this has happened numerous times where we've grown potentially fantastic companies and they just reach a threshold where it becomes harder and harder for them to stay and they get sold in their entirety. Probably the biggest example that people remember is Navman. The GPS technology was developed here in New Zealand, sold to an American firm called Brunswick, which then subsequently, I don't know if Brunswick went bust, but they certainly got in trouble and had to flick it on. Navman was an awesome company. It's still operating in parts here, but what a shame to lose a great company to foreign ownership.
But that's always, I guess, going to be the risk with angel investors here in New Zealand. Picking up some great companies, they do well, and then what is the next step? Maybe the investment isn't here in New Zealand, to go to the next level, and it is always going to be from overseas. We're a country the size of a city. We're
sure, and it's very hard to, as a businessman, to criticise other businessmen for making money. That's if I was offered a great big cheque by SAP, would I take it? I probably would.
Yeah, take the money and run.
But I guess there are two hopeful outcomes. One is that the money that that they got for Right Hemisphere is reinvested back into New Zealand. And you see people like Sam Morgan and Rod Drury are doing that. They are serial entrepreneurs. They've taken the money that they've got from the sale to Fairfax or to whomever, and they're reinvesting it back in Kiwi companies. That's awesome.
Well, we might see Mark Thomas, the founder of Right Hemisphere, doing that, possibly.
Well, I hope so. I think that would be a great outcome. But the even better outcome would be the likes of Orion Health Systems, which is in a similar position. It's a health software company based in Albany, Auckland. It's now New Zealand's largest software company, and they are growing internationally, and they are based here. They employ R&D staff here, but most importantly, the shareholding is retained here. And so when that company grows and starts to receive that passive income of being a kind of successful brand, that money all returns ultimately to New Zealand. That's what we want, Wamos, more of those.
Okay, cool. Well, more of this kind of talk and news and information up at idealog.co.nz. That's where you'll find Vincent making comments and blogging sometimes as well. Thanks very much, Vincent.
Thanks very much.
It's now